This is WVBN from around the world. The League of Nations voted on two important issues this week. The first being the threat of the Arctic Morgana shipyard, recently discovered by Italian patrols. After the Italians gave detailed reports on the facility, all principal League members and major contributors to the INPF agreed that the only way to neutralize the major threat was a combined force. The second issue was the defensive plans for the INPF facility at Narvik. The United Kingdom and France remained cagey about the issue, but made vague statements about how they did not want to fight the Norwegian people. Instead, they sought to prevent German trade once it left port. The Soviet Union declared an intention to protect the working people, while Japan and Germany each made separate statements about the necessity of the base for protection against Morganas and outside influences, respectively. Italy went as far as to offer assistance in expanding the base and its defenses. The United States simply expressed a desire to abide by the League's plans for the base. With each major power in broad agreement, talks were planned in the future for additional international INPF bases. Norway itself had a week of action, the first being the discovery and clearance of a large Morgana minefield off Bergen. Two Norwegian ships were sunk, and Germany offered assistance in clearing the minefield. The mines, which glowed in the dark, were taken to be examined and defused by a Norwegian explosives expert. But after a tragic accident left the expert dead, the mines were simply destroyed conventionally. Before the minefield could be fully cleared, 4 Norwegian civilian vessels and 1 American transport were sunk. Conventional mines discovered were determined to be of British and French origin. In Narvik, American and Japanese soldiers began fortification efforts of the city. Trenches and fighting positions were dug, and it was determined that American Captain Nathaniel Silver would command the land contingent of the defenders, while Japanese Admiral Inoue would have the final command of the naval defenses. Silver established a positive rapport with the Japanese and Italians on site, and while the Soviet troops had to be bribed with rations, the 4 nations prepared what little defenses they could. Without heavy artillery, their capabilities were limited, but a threat nonetheless. British and German troops declined to participate, and given the uneasy state of the war, nobody felt the issue should be pushed. The French troops simply barricaded themselves inside their lodgings and did not fraternize. These fighting positions thus also ended up overwatching the British, French, and German barracks. Narvik fell into an uneasy quiet, broken up only by military patrols. After the sinking of the American merchant transport, the 3 neutral Navy powers agreed that the minefield had to be removed, and so a delicate operation was undertaken to demine the field, with assistance from local guides and trained marksmen. The mines were successfully removed without incident, and all involved celebrated with a feast. In the United States, the Brazilian embassy was burned down in an unresolved incident. First responders were barred from entry by federal agents as inhuman echoes screamed from inside. Firefighters attempted to push past, but were met with drawn firearms by the agents. Only when the fire threatened to spread did they allow them to fight back the blaze. Afterwards, the agents went inside to throw gasoline on what little remained, and the building was left completely destroyed. The nearby Peruvian embassy was evacuated, with senior diplomatic staff leaving in official vehicles, and support staff quickly ushered onto a bus escorted by government representatives. All traces of Peruvians were quickly removed. The Allies canceled plans to bomb Soviet oil fields in order to deny their use by Germany in anticipation of imminent conflicts elsewhere. Allied soldiers on the Dutch-German border began fortifications before the German army's inevitable attack. Britain would be in charge of mobile defenses, while the French built up their static defenses and prepared to move south into Belgium to link up with the remainder of the French forces. Dutch troops primarily remained near the flooded areas of the country to assist in reconstruction and evacuations of the regions. Refugees from northern areas of the Netherlands began to pour into areas of the south, France and Belgium, after the floodings from Morgana attack left much of the country uninhabitable. Many remained trapped, but those who did escape went inland away from the ocean. Despite the influx, food was available for those who needed it. The remaining civilians found themselves trapped in cold, wet conditions and often went without food. Efforts were undertaken to rescue them, but the imminent German invasion meant that little could be done now. Many escaped to Germany who were eager to welcome and publicize their rescue. Britain detained a Turkish passenger ship en route to Palestine loaded with Jewish refugees from Germany. They lacked immigration permissions, and Britain was bound by agreements with the local Palestinians to prevent their immigration. Turkey retaliated by detaining several British cargo ships in port and closed the Bosphorus for British shipping. Diplomats on both sides immediately went into damage control, and Turkey threatened further escalation if the issue was not resolved. Spain dispatched Velasco to survey damage from the now defeated Golden Avarice near the Canary Islands. The Comintern took up Japanese offer of neutrality as more pressing issues in Europe demanded the availability of troops elsewhere. In addition to neutralizing the Japanese threat for the time being, it freed up resources for the rescue of Baikal, fortification of Vladivostok, and general preparedness of the Pacific Fleet. Both countries' legislative bodies would have to vote on this deal before it could be finalized. This has been WVBN from around the world.